Louisville and the H2O Expo, the largest utility conference and exhibition center in the nation. The H2O Expo is coming soon. This co-location is a partnership between National Rural Water Association, which owns and produces H2O Expo, and the Association of Equipment Manufacturers, which owns and produces ICUEE. Don't miss out on the industry event for water systems big and small. Let your heart race and your mind explore the great opportunities waiting for you in Louisville. Join us for National Rural Water Association's H2O Expo, October 4 through 6, 2011. It's the place for you. We guarantee you'll leave amazed.
And I think that the combined expo has been a great success, and I look forward to it in 2011.
Good morning. Okay, I'm just joking. Good afternoon. I'm a little embarrassed. You know, we have a great speaker here this afternoon who's given or guides the agency through all the loan and grant programs we've had this past year, more money than ever before. And he says, "Have you got a drink of water before I get up there?" And I said, no. Thank you for being here to this closing session of 2010, and as you noticed, the opening session of 2011 a little bit. It's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker. He is no stranger to rural water, no stranger to rural America. He hails from the state of South Dakota. Any South Dakotans in here today? And I thought there were. Is anybody left in the state? He hails from South Dakota, is well-rounded in all rural utility services, and we appreciate him being here. We appreciate him being with us last year and throughout the year, working with our leaders to better the RUS loan program to get water and wastewater systems funded, and to be here and share his thoughts and background with you. Would you please welcome to the stage the Administrator of the Rural Utility Services, Mr. Jonathan Adelstein.
Well, thank you so much, Sam. It's great to be here in New Orleans. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. This is kind of the Super Bowl of rural water, and I would never miss it in the world. And it turns out I got here on USDA Appreciation Day. Now, I love that. That was wonderful. Thank you. So I just felt all the warmth, all the love, and I remember I had an event like this recently where I spoke and somebody introduced me and they said, he's really a model administrator. So I went home and I told my wife about this, speaking of appreciation, and she said, model, let me look up the definition of that. She looked it up. She said, oh, small replica of the real thing. But it is great to be here with all of you, to feel the appreciation, but really we appreciate you. We appreciate what you did in making this historic year possible and all the effort you put out. And first I'd like to thank Joe Lyles and Fred Shelton and NRWA leadership, Rob Johnson, of course Sam Wade, for all they've done to bring this event together and what they've done through the year in terms of the vast accomplishments that we've had in this area. And I realize I'm the only thing standing between you and the raffle, so I've got to be brief. But I can't help talking about what an historic year we've had at RUS. Just 18 months ago, RUS was given this tremendous opportunity with the passage of the Recovery Act. Recognizing the tremendous challenges facing rural communities and the need for revitalizing rural infrastructure, Congress gave us it was about $1.3 billion, but we stretched it to $3.26 billion in Recovery Act funding to upgrade and extend rural water and waste systems. That commitment to water and the Recovery Act is really because this administration, the Obama administration, recognizes that in order to grow and prosper, rural communities have to have clean, affordable water and wastewater systems. It's just an essential element. You can't get there without it. And a vibrant and really thriving rural America is integral, not just to making rural America strong, but the overall national economy. And that'll make sure that rural America can be integrated fully with the rest of the economy. These investments don't just impact the economy, but they directly affect people's health and their environment. After all, the reason so many people love living in rural America, as I did growing up, was because of the environment, because of the room to stretch out and to get out into the woods or into the wilderness, get out a little bit and have some room to breathe. And it's the environment that it's all about. And you have protected the environment of your communities. So I'm happy to report here today, as the end of the fiscal year approaches, September 30th is the magic date for us. It's our big New Year's Eve is September 30th, because we're going to just all collapse after all the work we did. But it is the end, and we have fully funded all of our Recovery Act programs. We have spent every dime for good projects, 884 projects in all 50 states and Puerto Rico, for a total investment, as I said, of $3.26 billion. And not only did we get that done, on top of our Recovery Act funding, in the last year we provided more than 1,000 loans and grants, totaling another $1.65 billion through our regular appropriated funding that we do on a regular basis. So we got all that done while we're doing the Recovery Act. So if you combine those two, the recovery funding combined with our regular program funding, our total investment in these last 2 fiscal years was $6 billion. This represents the largest investment in rural infrastructure than at any other time in the program's long history. 3.4 million people are going to benefit from this. It's going to transform their quality of life. It's going to change the very standard of living for these folks. And it took a huge effort for all of us, and certainly for all of you too, but it was worth every bit of effort that it took. And when we talk about USDA Appreciation Day, I got to show a little appreciation for my own staff, an incredible team led by Jackie Ponte-Lazaric, who many of you know. Jackie deserves a round of applause for all the work she did. She led an incredible water team. A lot of folks are here today, but I can't say enough about how these folks performed. You know, people sometimes talk about government workers in not the most friendly light, especially recently, but these folks showed what it means to be a public servant. They worked endless hours. They worked nights, weekends. They got the job done that some folks didn't think could get done, and they got it done on time, actually ahead of schedule and on the money. As a matter of fact, at the end of it, $3.26 billion I'm talking about, you know how much money was left? 50 cents. We got it down that close. If anybody needs the extra 50 cents, apply now. We've only got about another 24 hours and it goes away. But that's how good these folks are. That's how hard they worked. They rose to the occasion because this was an historic opportunity to make a real difference in the lives of people living in your communities. But it was a real partnership. So the appreciation doesn't just go to our team who did such a great job, but it really goes to all of you. USDA Appreciation Day is USDA appreciating all of you because you made it possible. I don't think you could have done it without us, and we certainly couldn't have done it without you. You're the ones who put these together, who are now implementing them, and who are counting on to actually make these work. And I know why you did it. I've gotten to know some of you, and it's always just such a treat to meet such great folks. You're really the pillars of your communities. You're the people who keep the water flowing. While other people just assume it's going to happen, you're the ones who are the community leaders, not just on water, but on so many other areas in the community, the people who are doing the real work to keep the wheels turning. So thank you for all of that. And know that the work that you've done is going to really make a difference. It's going to help transition Americans to better economic times by putting people back to work when jobs are so urgently needed. And it's going to invest in these water systems that are going to create jobs in building them out, but more importantly, they will be the platform for continued job creation and economic growth for years and decades to come in rural America. They're going to provide the foundation for economic growth. These communities just can't grow without good water systems. People take it for granted, but you know when you're at the edge of your capacity and nobody else can move into town, or a business won't come in because the water needs can't be met, that your communities aren't going to be able to thrive without them. And the young people who we want to stay in the communities where they grew up, if they choose to stay there, need to have those resources They need to know that those systems are there so they can raise a family, so they can live in a healthy environment. So you did all that, and now you're doing it. Now you've got to get these things built out by 2015. I think a lot of you have heard, and I'll say it again, that at 2015, the money turns into a pumpkin. It's gone. These projects aren't done by then. If you're in the middle of a project, there's nothing we can do. The law says that money just vanishes. So we have to get these done in 5 short years. And I know most of them are going to get done, but there's a few that might lag a little bit, and we're going to count on all of you to really get on those and make sure that happens. And there's a whole wide variety of projects that you have to work with. In many cases, we replaced aging infrastructure. In others, the projects are bringing new service to places that were totally unserved, that didn't have any service at all. While the purposes of these projects vary, they're all working to revive local economies. They're all going to improve the life for those who live in those communities. And we accomplished this massive effort by sticking to what works for RUS. We tapped into the enthusiasm and dedication of our Rural Development National Office, who I spoke about, but also especially our field staff and our state offices, where the rubber meets the road for this program. As a lot of you know, we have 470 offices across every state in the country. They're staffed with local outreach professionals and field experts. And like a lot of you, they're real community leaders where they reside, and they've worked with you hand in glove to get these projects out, to work on future projects we're going to do. We have some of our state directors here today. I know Elsie Meeks from my state of South Dakota is here. I think Randy Gore is here from North Carolina. They worked overtime as well. Our state offices worked like the dickens to get this done. And I'd like to thank so many of you who are here from our state staffs. I know a lot of you are here today, and for the long hours of overtime, the nights, the weekends, the time away from your families, so that other families in your communities could have the benefits of clean water. Now, one of the ways we got it done so quick was to do it through the existing regulations. This is a program that was in place. A lot of rural communities, a lot of you know our existing regulations, and you worked with us. And we called on you to help us reach those goals, and you certainly met them. I'd like to talk for a minute about the circuit riders, too, and what a great job they did. In last 2 years, 2009 and 10, RUS provided $14.2 million to NRWA. We funded 89 circuit riders under the Recovery Act to reach those communities that needed the Recovery Act funds most. A lot of times it's those communities that need the help the most that are least able to provide it. And that's where the circuit riders come in and meet that need. They guide people through the reporting process. They conducted thousands of visits to communities, both familiar and unfamiliar with the program. They helped them through the filing process and the recipient reporting requirements. In fact, in this last year, the Recovery Act and Solid Waste Circuit Riders conducted 80,000 system visits. And you know that every one of those visits was needed. Every one of those visits was a godsend to that rural community that was struggling to figure out how to make it work and didn't know how to do it. And here came this expert that could show them the way. In addition, last year, RUS provided more than $14 million to fund circuit riders through the Water and Waste Disposal Circuit Rider contract, about $10 million more than the 100 wastewater technicians in all 50 states. So at both the national and the state levels, your organization has really helped to foster this cooperative approach. So we've been able to work together through these difficult issues. Together, I think we really put rural communities in a strong position for the future. And we've seen it time and again, when a system's in trouble, NRWA jumps into action to help. You deploy generators, equipment, parts, and people, and you don't hesitate. You just get the job done. That's the kind of people you are. That's the kind of rock of the communities that you are. The kind of people that when they see a need, they jump at it. And the circuit riders have done that so well. They've had a really busy year. Your efforts have resulted in continued service and improved efficiency for so many systems. Just some examples. Right here in Louisiana, for example, in Cameron Parish, their Waterworks District Number 2 was struggling to fund their operating expenses. Circuit rider Rusty Reeves discovered that they were using 65% more water per connection than neighboring systems with meters. So he worked with the board to help explain the finances and benefits of installing water meters and structuring rates differently. And thanks to Rusty, when the meters are installed and implementation of these new rates occurs, their system could see an increase of revenue by as much as $250,000 a year, which is a big difference in a little system like that. Up in Webster Parish in the city of Spring Hill here in Louisiana, Circuit Rider Aubrey Peterson noticed that the aeration system wasn't adequate because the diffusers were being turned off. The city was considering a redesign of the system, but Aubrey pointed out that the design they were considering wouldn't work properly. So his review of the system ended up saving the city $20,000, and that money could be put where it was needed. So he's still working with the city to address other operations and maintenance issues, but he needed to step in, and this happens time and again. West of here, in the town of Gramercy, Circuit Rider Timmy Lemoyne assisted in bringing the town's water system into compliance with EPA regulations. Not only did the water quality improve, but they avoided possible fines. It could have been $5,000 a day, and you know that town can't afford that. Just 2 weeks ago, the West Madison Utility District in rural Mississippi lost service because their only operating well failed. Here, local residents were without clean, safe drinking waters for days. And their health is at serious risk, because you know this is a crisis. So in comes Kirby Mayfield, Executive Director of the Mississippi Rural Water Association, immediately contacted our state office in Mississippi. Our state director, Trina George, and her staff teamed up with the Rural Water Association staff to develop an action plan to restore water as quickly as possible. Randy Turnage and Joe Grammer, circuit riders from the Mississippi Rural Water, were dispatched to help. So Randy and Joe worked with Rural Development, the district's consulting engineer, the Department of Health, and the town of Flora to get the situation assessed, to figure out what was happening, develop a solution to get water to the residents as quickly as possible. Within a week, the town of Flora was constructed and residents got their service back. Just a few days ago, circuit riders from the Minnesota Rural Water Association assisted in that devastating flooding they had up there. After 13 inches of rain caused flooding, the wastewater treatment plant was underwater, and the sewer system was backing up into the basements of local residents. Jeff Dale, Kelly Janes, Kyle Kedrowski, and Frank Stumke all assisted in, and the water was quickly removed from the collection system. In fact, their first contact was just 2 hours after the flooding occurred, right there on top of it. Minnesota Rural Water was prepared and trained to provide emergency technical assistance to water and wastewater systems, and they did a great job. They're dedicated to the task at hand and almost didn't make it here to the conference. I think you're here. Are you here today, somewhere out there, Minnesota? Good job. Nice work to all of you. Thank you all, circuit riders, for all that you did, for all your dedication. These are just a few stories, and this happened time and time again. So it's so great to be here in New Orleans. This is an ideal place, I think, to celebrate the strength and character of the people like you who keep these rural systems going. It's been 5 years since Katrina wreaked such havoc on the coast, and a lot of Recovery Act work has been done. There's still a lot more to do, but it's important to recognize the efforts of those who stepped in to help in the middle of this crisis. And I think you know that many of you from NRWA dedicated your time and energy to assist in the aftermath of Katrina. We were talking about that at lunch today. Thank you for all you did, just as you always do. When there's a problem, you're on top of it. You dived in here, and you do what's right, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because it's a core value. It's something that you believe in. It's just instinctive for you folks who are the folks that hold up like Atlas your communities and make sure that the basics are all there. And that's the reason we value our partnership so much with you. These are just a few examples of the amazing work that you all do. Such tangible results. Because of your efforts, water systems across the country have reduced costs, improved quality of service, you've protected the environment, and you've made these communities sustainable for the long term so that your kids and grandkids and their kids can enjoy the fruits of your work for years to come. So we couldn't have done all that without all of you at NRWA. There's a lot more left to do, though. Looking ahead, RUS is working to ensure that all the projects in the last 2 years are built out on schedule so that you can get those benefits done. The 5 years isn't just essential because the money disappears. It's essential because the sooner we get these projects done, the better for your communities. For those of you who are fortunate enough to receive funding, we're counting on you to get that done as soon as possible. But I know you will. I know you're going to do everything you can because you always do. You know how important this is. You know what an opportunity this is. And that's why you rose to this occasion. But it's important to us to demonstrate from my perspective in Washington, we're going to get constantly asked, how many outlays, how many outlays? So far it's been, how many awards have you done? Let's get this money out, let's get these projects awarded. Now it's going to be, how many of these projects are underway? How many dollars have you sent out there? How many jobs have you created? How many systems are up and running? And the reason we need to do that isn't just so as us bureaucrats can get good reviews from OMB and the White House. The reason is that we need to demonstrate to the funders that the need out there is real and urgent, that we are filling this need and that we can get the money out quickly. You give it to us, we're going to get the job done. So when they're making tough decisions in Congress or at OMB and the White House about where to put limited future funding, and funding is going to be very tight. This administration is extremely serious about getting this budget situation under control. But we need to make sure we demonstrate these funds are needed and that they'll be put to good use quickly and efficiently. And this is really important as we're heading into discussions even starting next year on the next Farm Bill. And I know you'll do that. We have a huge backlog to address, and we have to convince people that we can get the funding we need to get that done. Even with $6 billion in new projects in the last 2 years, our backlog still remains at more than $3 billion. And I don't think anybody knows what that means more than all of you, because you know exactly what projects I'm talking about. You've got all these ideas in your head about things that you want to get done in your communities that $3 billion represents. And you know there's other communities in need that haven't yet even filed an application for assistance that so badly need it. Now, we're anticipating 2011 funding levels similar to those prior to the Recovery Act. So we've kind of ginned people up, we've got people excited, we've got all these applications going, and yet we don't necessarily have a lot more money. The good news is that during the next quarter, we'll have the lowest interest rate in program history. Our RUS staff is gearing up now to make sure we're able to assist as many communities as possible with the funding that we do have. And to maximize the impact to that funding, we plan to partner with agencies on funding sources for these projects. Just know that, yes, there is life after the Recovery Act, and RUS is going to continue to be there to help our rural communities provide quality service and protect their local environment. And of course, sustainability will continue to be our focus. We at RUS are going to continue to encourage and rely upon you to maintain and manage systems in a way that makes sure that they're going to be there in 10, 20, and 30 years from now. We're building state-of-the-art systems. We're building sustainable systems. And we're building people who know how to keep them going. So we're going to be strengthening our partnerships with our sister agencies and regional organizations to increase the impact of our program, because we have to. We're going to have to do more with less. That's going to be the mantra as this difficult budget time comes up, even as our needs are massive. Through our collaborations with our colleagues at EPA, IHS, and others, we're streamlining and improving our Native Alaskan grant program. In 2010, USDA achieved a record level of investment in rural water and waste disposal infrastructure in Native Alaskan villages, and we're going to continue to work because there's so many needs in Alaska. A lot left to do to make sure that we improve those conditions in the years ahead. And we launched an initiative to better serve rural communities along the southwest border. As part of this Colonius initiative, we've started meeting with funding partners and community leaders to gain valuable local insight as to how best to address those issues and community development issues along the border. And I sure appreciate the rural water associations of Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California in our efforts. We were talking about them today, and we're going to continue to really focus on those communities that are so badly in need. We've also increased our collaboration with EPA in other areas, and I expect that a lot more discussions are going to occur in the months ahead. We want to achieve a mutual understanding of sustainability for rural systems and the impact of regulations on the cost of our rural systems. We need to get that message across. We're also working to bring focus on the critical issues of jobs in the industry and working on a variety of ideas with all of you, figuring out how to create more jobs, how to get the people that can fill those jobs for years to come. So when we look at our success, one measure of it really is who can benefit from clean water every time they turn on that faucet. In the federal government, we measure this by federal accountability standards to ensure that every tax dollar is invested wisely. And I think you know from the projects you've done how wisely we have invested these funds. We target assistance to low-income rural areas. We use program resources effectively. We leverage federal dollars to support as many rural water and wastewater projects as possible. And because of our outstanding financing track record, we set the bar for a successful program. But that's tooting our horn a little bit. What the truth is that we can't do this without you, that you've been our key partner All these successes are attributable to what you've done. You know that means we expect to continue our close partnership. We've got a lot of challenges ahead, and we're going to find the demand for this program continues to grow, even as the spotlight on the Recovery Act makes more people apply because they see the great work that we've done on the Recovery Act. And you've come to rely on the USDA water and wastewater program for good reason. We are as critical as we've ever been, and we know we can count on our partners in rural water as our mission continues. These projects aren't just infrastructure, they're about revitalizing rural communities. They're about making sure that we create jobs and provide a solid basis for economic growth so that communities can continue to attract new families and businesses. And it's about improving the quality of life in these rural communities. Altogether, these components create rural communities that are self-sustaining, repopulating, and prosperous. That's the mission we're all working towards. That's the mission we're working on together with you, our partners, somebody that we appreciate every day. So thanks for inviting me to be here. It's been an honor working with you through this historic year. I'm going to stick around for a second because I want to surprise some folks. I'd like to take a moment to ask Fred Shelton and Rob Johnson to join me up on stage. I don't know if they know this is coming, but they're right up front. You know, these folks have been incredible leaders during a great and challenging time. They have risen to this occasion. I don't think there's ever been a year that has been more stress and strain than this year. And as a token of our appreciation for you, on behalf of USDA Rural Development, RUS, and all of the rural communities that you've served, I want to present the National Rural Water Association with this token of our appreciation for all that you have done to make this day possible, to make the Recovery Act such a success, to make this the best year in the history of RUS. Thank you 1,000 times for all that you've done. All right, you bet. That was convenient. Cute. Rob is back up again.
I am. Thank
Good
you.
job, Rob.
Okay, I'm just going to play with 50 cents. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Jonathan. And about that 50 cents, y'all don't worry about that anymore, okay? USDA can make quick loans when they really, really need to, so. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. I'm one of the most grateful people that you will know. I am grateful for partners like Rural Utility Services, water and wastewater people that have changed the face of rural America. I am glad this is a day that we as an association say that we really appreciate them and acknowledge them for all that they do. They have helped create your water utility. They've helped create the water utility that I live in Loco, Oklahoma. We took out a loan in the early 60s, have totally repaid it back to the government. And I live in the middle of a little part of the world that many of you have heard me talk about, and a few of you have actually seen. Certainly the wastewater people and circuit rider people have come to help Loco a lot in Oklahoma. Of 90 meters now, 150 people on a good day. Actually, I live a little south of town, for those of you that know that. And I could not live where I live without the water system that was put in the 60s, financed by then Farmers Home Administration. I live in the middle of the oil patch. You can find oil, you cannot find water where I live. And so our water comes from a long ways away to let me live in the lifestyle that I live where I am. For almost 60 years, Rural Utility Services water wastewater team has built America's infrastructure. Years ago, had the privilege of attending the first payoff of a loan. Actually, it was made before this program was started in Kansas. And the administrator at that time came down and helped receive the funds for that first system to pay off. This is the highest rated government lending program, managed exceptionally well. The delinquency rate is almost non-existent. And this year, in my 32 and a half years of working for you, is the greatest it has ever been. Jonathan eloquently demonstrated to you the amount of money that was lent out, the number of projects that were funded, the most of any given year. This has been an incredibly great year. And a lot of great people, a lot of great friends of yours and mine, and in the water waste program that make all this possible. I know the lights are down. Could everyone that works for rural utility services, rural development, just stand up? Just stand up for a second. Please, would you just stand up? Thank you. Jonathan, Jackie, John, Sandy, and numerous other great friends that are here, on behalf of a grateful association, thank you for your service to rural America. Thank you for helping us to live in the place that we live in, to raise our families, to raise our businesses, and letting us have the lifestyle that we all enjoy as rural Americans. Sincerely, thank you. And for this last loan of 50 cents, Jonathan. Thank you again for that. I am grateful for our state associations. Over 48 state associations. Again, the Atlantic states is composed of Connecticut and Rhode Island. And on December the 1st, our last state association will be incorporated in Hawaii. And those state associations, over the last year, trained over 100,000 people. Technical assistance provided by our wastewater technicians, our circuit riders, our training people, our source water people, asset development people, approximate a couple 100,000 people assisted. And protecting source water, protecting the assets of our utilities, they have done phenomenally well. And to my amazement, it shouldn't be, but to my amazement, these over 700 dedicated staff of state rural water associations, the board of directors that guide them and direct them, have helped their states excel in ways that we could not have imagined when our associations were created over 30 years ago. On behalf of a grateful association, thank you all for what you've done in that regard. I am grateful to our president, Fred Sheldon, for his leadership, for his work ethic, for his relationship building, mostly for our friendship that we've developed over the period of time where we work closely together. You know, Fred lives in a place where he has challenges that you and I don't face. And I sometimes think living in Loca, Oklahoma may bring its own fair share of challenges. But Fred lives very close to the Canadian border in north central Washington. That's a 3-hour drive to an airport to take him somewhere else. And maybe you've heard his travel stories. But in my 32 and a half years of working for you, I've never met a person that's had more flights delayed, more flights canceled, more nights in hotel rooms that he didn't plan on staying in than Fred. He knows the TSA officers and staff people personally and probably more intimately than he will share with you on some of his occasions. He knows the Delta rebooking agents. When he calls, they call him by his first name now. Flying with Fred has been an adventure. Sharon will attest to. The day that their aircraft ran off the end of the runway in the ice, and the emergency equipment showed up and the television cameras. It was an exciting day that meant a lot to Sharon and to Fred. The lost luggage, the broken luggage, all of those little things that happen when you fly as much as Fred does. But he's given all that, all the time he's given, all the sacrificial giving Fred's made on behalf of our association. He's done because he loves the association, because this is his charge that he takes seriously. Fred's been all about association building and spending time in your associations and helping you succeed and help you do well. Fred, on behalf of a grateful association, thank you for your presidency, sir. And Fred, it's just a memory of all those flights. Sam, do you have something that would like to? You know, he was Man of the Year the other night, but this airplane is, you may want to go see it, has a broken wing. So Fred, in a few years, you can look back upon all those unplanned delays, cold nights with Sharon in a hotel room and skidding off the runway and laugh. And maybe that airplane will bring you some laughter as you set it beside your Man of the Year award, which you so deservedly won earlier this year. Of course you would. Sharon would like that one better. Thank you, Fred, my friend. Also grateful for the service of our board of directors. This year we had 4 gentlemen retire. From this great state of Louisiana, Wayne Fontenot, after 30 years, has stepped off of our board of directors. Rodney Tart, a past president from North Carolina, has also stepped down this year. Ralph Chevalier from Ohio, after 10 years of service, has stepped down. And Steve King from the great state of Maryland has stepped down. On behalf of a grateful association, thank you, gentlemen, for all you've given, all your time, all your efforts, all that you do. We are grateful. I am grateful to my colleagues in Duncan, Oklahoma, and Washington, D.C., that I have a privilege to work with. Rarely do we speak of those, but and you meet some of them here at the conference, but never all, because many people have to stay home and make sure the office is there and continues to function. And for their dedication and for their commitment, for their energy, and all the work that they do and help that they do to make us successful. On behalf of a grateful association and myself, thank you for all of you for all that you do. And I'm grateful sometimes for change, and sometimes I'm not sure. I'm grateful for change. I'm grateful for this 50-cent change, but that's not the change I'm talking about. In Oklahoma, I live on a hillside on the plains in an underground house for one of these reasons. This time of year, when rain comes our way, that things may grow. It's often preceded by dark clouds. Now with radar, you get warnings that something is coming your way. But sometimes out on the plains, as you look and you see low, tumbling, dark things coming your way, sometimes they're green, sometimes they're turning over as they approach you, preceded by rumbles from afar. And as they grow closer, the rumbling gets louder and louder and almost shakes you in your boots at times when it arrives there. Sometimes it comes with tornado warnings, but it brings rain. and it brings change. It heals the land in which we live. This year, politically, as we're hearing rumblings of great change in our political environment, that worries us some degree. But as one who's lived through when the Nixon administration came in and talked about cutting the kind of programs that are precious to us, the Reagan administration, who talked about change and cutting some programs, and in fact did, and the contract with America that occurred in the 90s that brought a different kind of change. Rural water has survived, as we will survive as this year goes forward, even though there will be some uncertainty about what is to happen, because sometimes people have difficulty discriminating against good programs and programs that aren't as good as what we happen to thrive and enjoy in. But because of, as we've talked about before, Rural Utility Service Water and Wastewater Program, the highest rated loan program in federal government, the low delinquency rate, which means your high repayment rate, that program will continue. It has friends on both sides of the aisle. Our wastewater program, our circuit rider program, our training program, our source water program will also survive, but it's going to take a little more work on your part. You're going to have to make sure you tell your congressman and your new people that may come in the importance of those kind of programs, and I encourage you to do that in these next few months as we go forward. I'm grateful for this profession that we all share, keeping our environment clean, providing safe drinking water act to people, bringing water to people like where I live, that my wife and I couldn't live without the water that you help provide. As has often been said, you do more for public health in your community than anyone else, because you watch over a product that comes into every home, that's used for a multiplicity of purposes and is necessary for our life, a product that makes up the majority of our body. So on behalf of a grateful nation, thank you for the service you provide to it. I'm so grateful for your attendance at this WaterPro conference, for your participating, for your sharing, for your supporting WaterPack and participating in this raffle as you're about to do here. On behalf of a grateful association, thank each and every one of you for being here, for sharing, for making new friends, for reaching out. Our speaker at the opening session talked about working, talked about loving, talked about having fun. When you come to these conferences, we do much of that. We're all about work, but we're also about enjoying each other's company, learning to love each other, and learning to make new friends everywhere, and also about having fun. This great city is a great place to do that. So I'll leave you by saying, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. And the Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace.
Stick around. The WaterPack raffle will begin in 5 minutes.